Your plans don't fail at the start. They collapse later, quietly, after the excitement wears off, after the first burst of motivation dies, after reality shows up and stops cooperating. That's why this hurts more than outright failure. You believed this plan. You thought it was finally different. It wasn't badly designed. It was built on the wrong assumption. The assumption that future you will behave differently than present you. Every plan you make is secretly optimistic about one thing, that when things get hard, you'll rise. You won't. You'll default. Not because you're weak, because humans always default to what they've practiced. And most plans ignore that completely. This is the first reason your plans collapse. They are designed for your best mood, not your real behavior. You plan while calm, while motivated, while imagining an ideal version of yourself. But execution happens when you're tired, distracted, uncertain, uninspired. Plans don't collapse because you lack discipline. They collapse because they were never designed for bad days. You didn't ask, what happens when I don't feel like doing this? You assumed you would. That assumption is fatal. Here's the second reason your plans fail. You plan outcomes instead of behaviors. You say, I'll get in shape. I'll build this project. I'll change my life. Those are destinations, not instructions. When the day arrives, you're left asking, what do I actually do right now? And because there's no clear action, friction appears. Friction creates delay. Delay kills momentum. Plans that don't translate into daily behavior are fantasies. They feel good to imagine. They collapse under execution. Now here's the third reason. You overestimate motivation and underestimate resistance. Every plan assumes motivation will carry you forward. But motivation is a short-term chemical spike. Resistance is permanent. Resistance shows up as boredom, as distraction, as doubt, as I'll do it later. Your plan did not include resistance. So when resistance arrives, the plan has no defense. It breaks. Here's the fourth reason. You plan in isolation. You don't account for your environment, notifications, people, comfort, noise. You plan as if you'll operate in a vacuum. You won't. Your environment is designed to pull you away from effort. If your plan requires willpower to fight your environment every day, it will lose, always. Plans collapse when they rely on willpower instead of design. Now, let's talk about time. This is where plans quietly die. You assume you'll find time. You won't. Time is not found. It's defended. If your plan doesn't have protected time, it has no home, so it gets pushed aside by urgent nonsense. Emails, messages, tasks that feel productive but change nothing. Your plan didn't fail. It was never scheduled. Here's another reason plans collapse. You make plans too big, too ambitious, too clean. You change everything at once. New routine, new habits, new identity. That feels powerful. It's fragile. One missed day creates guilt. Guilt creates shame. Shame creates quitting. Plans collapse not because they're too small, but because they demand perfection early, and perfection is impossible. Now let's talk about ego. This is uncomfortable. You design plans that make you feel capable, not plans that expose your weaknesses. You avoid planning for failure. You avoid planning for laziness. You avoid planning for doubt, because planning for those things feels insulting. But reality doesn't care about your self-image. It only cares what happens when conditions are bad. Plans collapse because they protect ego instead of results. Here's another killer. You don't define exit rules, so quitting happens emotionally, on a bad day. After one setback, after boredom sets in, high performers decide in advance. When will I reassess? What counts as failure? How long is long enough? You don't. So emotion decides. Emotion always chooses comfort, and comfort collapses plans. Now let's talk about feedback. Your plans assume feedback will arrive quickly. Results, progress, validation. But real progress is silent, invisible, delayed. So you assume nothing is happening. And when nothing feels like failure, you stop. Plans collapse because you don't understand delayed payoff. You quit during the quiet phase, the phase right before compounding begins. Now here's the most dangerous reason your plans collapse. You secretly believe planning is progress. It's not. Planning is emotional relief. It feels like movement. It feels responsible. But until behavior changes, nothing changed. Smart people are especially vulnerable to this. They build elegant plans, complex systems, beautiful strategies, and never execute. The plan becomes the achievement. Execution never happens. Now, let's talk about identity. You plan as if you are already the person who executes. You're not yet. Execution is a skill, a trained behavior. Plans collapse because they assume an identity you haven't built. You plan like a disciplined person, then execute like an undisciplined one. That mismatch creates failure. Not because you can't change, because you didn't plan for the transition. Now here's a painful truth. You don't lack good plans. You lack continuation systems. You start strong, then fade, then restart, then fade again. Each collapse reinforces a belief. I can't stick to things. That belief becomes identity. Identity becomes destiny. Now let's talk about urgency. Your plans feel optional. There's no immediate cost to skipping today, so you skip. And skipping today doesn't hurt until skipping becomes normal. Plans collapse because nothing breaks when you don't follow them. No consequence, no loss. So behavior doesn't change. Now let's talk about discipline myths. You believe disciplined people feel disciplined. They don't. They remove decisions. They reduce friction. They build rules. Your plans ask you to decide every day. Decision fatigue kills plans. Rules sustain them. Now here's the real reason this keeps happening. You plan for success, not for continuation. You imagine the finish line. You don't imagine the middle. The middle is boring. The middle is lonely. The middle is unglamorous. That's where plans die. Not at the start, not at the end. In the middle. And nobody teaches you how to survive the middle. So you blame yourself. You think you're inconsistent. You're not. You're unprotected. Now let's talk about expectations. You expect plans to feel aligned, to feel right, to feel motivating. When they don't, you assume something is wrong. Nothing is wrong. Plans feel worst when they're working because growth feels like resistance before it feels like progress. You misinterpret resistance as a signal to stop. It's not. It's a signal you've reached the part that matters. Plans collapse because you read the signal wrong. Now here's the quiet cost. Every collapsed plan makes the next one weaker. You trust yourself less. You hesitate more. You plan less boldly. Eventually, you stop planning altogether. Not because you don't want more, because you don't trust follow-through. That's how ambition dies. Not in one moment, in repeated collapses. Now let's strip this down to the core. Your plans collapse because they rely on who you hope to be, not who you are on bad days. They assume motivation instead of structure, emotion instead of rules, hope instead of design. That's not failure. That's misengineering. Because once you stop designing plans for your ideal self, you can finally build plans that survive reality. And plans that survive reality don't collapse. They evolve. Here's the rule that stops plans from collapsing. You don't design plans to succeed. You design plans to survive. That sounds small. It's everything. Most plans are built to look good on perfect days, strong mornings, clear minds, high motivation. Real life is the opposite. Messy days, low energy, distraction everywhere. Plans that only work on good days are already broken. Durable plans assume bad days are normal. They don't ask, how do I perform at my best? They ask, how do I continue when I'm at my worst? That's the shift. Now let's break down how durable plans are actually built. First, minimums, not maximums. Most plans fail because the standard is too high. You plan what you wish you could do daily, not what you will do daily when tired, bored, or stressed. So you miss once, then twice, then you feel behind, then you quit. Durable plans flip this. They define a non-negotiable minimum so small it's embarrassing. A floor you never fall below, not your best effort. Your worst acceptable effort. Why? Because consistency beats intensity. Momentum doesn't come from big days. It comes from not breaking the chain. If you protect the minimum, the plan survives bad days. And bad days are most days. Second, rules beat decisions. Your plans collapse because they ask you to decide every day. Should I work now? Should I rest? Should I push? Decision fatigue kills follow-through. Durable plans remove choice. They use rules. Rules like, I start at this time. I stop after this is done. I don't miss twice. Rules don't care how you feel. They fire automatically. That's why disciplined people look calm. They're not negotiating with themselves all day. Third, time is scheduled, not hoped for. If your plan doesn't live on your calendar, it doesn't exist. Finding time is a fantasy. Durable plans claim time aggressively. Specific days, specific hours, and that time is protected like an appointment, not flexible, not optional. Plans collapse when they compete with everything else. Durable plans win the time battle first. Fourth, environment does the heavy lifting. If your plan requires willpower every day, it will fail. Always. Durable plans change the environment, so the right action is easier than the wrong one. Tools ready, distractions blocked, friction added to bad habits. This is not motivation, it's design. You don't fight your environment, you make it work for you. Fifth, no evaluation during emotion. This is critical. Most plans die during emotional spikes, frustration, doubt, boredom. So durable plans include a rule. No quitting, no rethinking, no changing direction on bad days. Reassessment only happens on calm, neutral days. When emotion is low, when judgment is clear, this alone saves more plans than discipline ever will. Sixth, expect silence. Most people quit because nothing seems to be happening. No feedback, no reward, no visible progress. Durable plans assume silence. They track inputs, not outcomes. Did I show up? Did I do the minimum? That's the metric. Outcomes lag. Inputs are controllable. Plans collapse when you expect encouragement. Durable plans continue without it. Seventh, identity comes after repetition. You keep planning as if you're already disciplined. You're not yet. Discipline is built through repetition, not intention. Durable plans don't require you to be someone new. They let identity catch up later. You don't become consistent, then act. You act consistently, then become consistent. Plans collapse when identity is assumed instead of trained. Now let's talk about the middle, the part nobody plans for. The middle is boring, repetitive, unrewarding. That's where most plans die. Durable plans normalize boredom. They don't interpret it. They don't fight it. They treat boredom as confirmation. If it's boring, it's repeatable. If it's repeatable, it compounds. People quit because they expect excitement. Durable plans expect monotony. Now let's talk about setbacks. Setbacks don't kill plans. Overreaction does. Missing one day doesn't matter. Missing 2 days doesn't matter. Letting a miss turn into a stop matters. Durable plans include recovery rules. I resume immediately. No punishment. No reset. You don't start over. You continue. Plans collapse when one slip becomes a story about you. Durable plans treat slips as logistics. Nothing more. Now here's the hardest truth. Your plans don't collapse because you're inconsistent. They collapse because you design them to prove something about you. That you're disciplined. That you're motivated. That you're capable. That's ego. Durable plans don't prove anything. They function. They don't care how you feel about yourself. They just keep you moving. Now, let's bring this down to one core principle. A good plan doesn't ask you to rise to it. It lowers itself to meet you. That's not lowering standards. That's respecting reality. Once reality is respected, progress becomes inevitable. Now, the final challenge. This is not motivational. It's corrective. Take your current plan or the next one you're about to make. Strip it down. Ask 3 questions. What is the minimum version I can do on my worst day? What rule removes daily decision making? When is this scheduled specifically? If you can't answer those, the plan will collapse. Fix it now, not later. Because plans don't fail from lack of ambition. They fail from lack of survival design. If this explained why your plans keep dying in the same place, leave a comment with one word, rebuilt, and subscribe if you want more of this. Not motivation, not planning theory, but systems that hold when your emotions don't. Because once you stop designing plans for who you wish you were, and start designing them for who you are on bad days, your plans stop collapsing. They start carrying you forward.